I caught her in our laundry room, bent over the washing machine, moaning, while a janitor from her office, still wearing his stained gray uniform, stood behind her. I dropped the groceries right there on the floor. She didn't stop, didn't scream. She looked over her shoulder, smirked, and said, "Well, now you've seen what real work looks like." I should have walked away, but I stayed. And that decision ruined everything. That Thursday started normal. I took the day off to surprise her. Picked up her favorite donuts, got groceries, even folded the laundry she always hated doing. I wanted to be thoughtful. Maybe she'd smile at me like she used to. Maybe we'd sit down, talk. Maybe we could feel close again. I remember checking my phone outside the building. 11:42 a.m. She usually worked from home on Thursdays. She told me she had too many meetings to take a lunch break, so she'd be locked in her home office all day. I came in quiet. Didn't want to interrupt the call, but the second I stepped inside, something fell off. Her purse was on the counter. Her shoes, both pairs by the door. But I heard thudding from the back hallway. Not footsteps. Rhythmic. Unmistakable. I thought something fell. Or broke. I called her name once. No answer. I walked down the hall toward the laundry room. The door was halfway open. I should have turned back. But I looked inside. There she was. My fiancée. The woman I'd been with for almost 4 years. Hands on the washer. Pants around her ankles. Her blouse still on a half-buttoned. Behind her stood a man. Older. Stocky. Filthy. His uniform was city gray, with sweat stains and dirt on the sleeves. The kind of man who changes out mop heads and unclogs public toilets. A badge on his chest said, "Facilities." I'd seen him once before cleaning floors in her office building. And now he was behind her, breathing heavy, gripping her waist like he owned her. She saw me. Didn't scream. Just smirked. "You're early," she said. "Want to join? Or just gonna stand there like a kick dog?" The sound of his zipper drowned out my heartbeat. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. She turned to him. "Ignore him. He does this. Freezes when things get real." I dropped the bag. Milk hit the tile. Burst. They didn't stop. She moaned louder. On purpose. She wanted me to hear. I stumbled out the door. Nearly tripped down the stairs. Outside, I sat on the curb for a full hour. Not crying. Not angry. Just hollow. When I finally got in my car, my phone buzzed. One text from her. "You forgot the fabric softener." I didn't talk to anyone for 2 days. I stayed in a cheap motel off the freeway. Didn't go to work. Didn't eat much. Just lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that I didn't really see what I saw. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was context I didn't understand. Maybe. No. I saw her. With him. I saw what she did. And still, some part of me kept asking, can I forgive her? I texted her late that second night. Just one word. Why? She replied within seconds. "You're still thinking about it?" The next morning, she called me. "Look," she said, completely calm, "you walked in at the wrong time. That's on you." I didn't understand. "What are you talking about?" "You cheated on me. With a janitor. In our house." "You say that like it wasn't coming," she snapped. "You've been so boring lately. Predictable. You just do whatever I say. You act like being loyal makes you interesting." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My voice cracked. "I tried so hard for you." "I know," she said. "That's what made it so easy." I went silent. She kept talking. "Honestly, you were so trusting. It was almost pathetic. You believed every excuse. Every late meeting. I used to laugh about it with Alicia and Marcy. You remember Marcy, right? She said, girl, if he was any more gullible, he'd offer to pay the other guy's Uber." She laughed at her own joke. I almost dropped the phone. "I gave you everything," I whispered. She sighed. "And I gave you chances to grow up. You didn't. You stayed the same, safe, soft, predictable. You're like a warm sock. And I got tired of socks." Then she delivered the final blow. "I'm not sorry. You should be thanking me for showing you what real life looks like." I ended the call. But the worst came after. She started posting online. Not directly about me, but just enough for people to understand. One post said, "There's a difference between a provider and a prisoner. Know the difference." Another, "When you outgrow someone, don't shrink to fit their comfort zone." People commented. Liked. Even mutual friends chimed in. "Preach. So proud of you. Your glow up is real." I was the villain in a story I didn't even know was being told. And still I wanted to talk. To explain. To see if maybe we could fix it. I went back to the apartment to grab my things. She opened the door wearing his hoodie. "Oh," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Didn't expect the welcome mat to crawl back." I stood there, frozen. "I guess you're here to cry or something," she added, chewing gum. "No," I said, finally finding my voice. "I'm here to say goodbye." She leaned in close, smiled, and whispered, "You'll be back. Losers always crawl back." That was the last time I saw her face to face. And it was the first time I realized she would never feel sorry. Not unless I made her. I didn't eat for 3 days. I couldn't. Every time I lifted a fork, I saw her eyes, bored, amused, cruel. That smirk she gave me as she leaned into that janitor like I didn't even exist. Like I was just background noise. I stayed in my childhood bedroom. The walls still had posters from high school. A cracked laptop. Old trophies that didn't mean anything anymore. I slept in the same bed I cried in after my first breakup at 17. Now I was 31. And crying again. The worst part? I still loved her. Some pathetic part of me wanted her to call. To say sorry. To say it was a mistake. That she got scared. That it didn't mean anything. But she didn't. She posted a story instead. A photo of her hand holding a beer. His boots, those disgusting, stained work boots, visible in the background. Caption: "I finally feel alive." That broke something in me. I stared at that picture for an hour. Not because of the boots, not because of her, but because of the caption. I finally feel alive. What was I then? Dead? All those years, driving her to interviews, covering rent when she was between jobs, staying up late listening to her cry about her parents, making her coffee before her big meetings. Was that all just the quiet funeral of my own dignity? I opened my notes app, typed one sentence. She doesn't get to walk away clean. And for the first time since that moment in the laundry room, I felt something other than shame. I started remembering things. Her bragging about her spotless reputation at work. How she said HR reps were untouchable if they knew how to word things right. How she once giggled about erasing a complaint filed against her by a weird intern who said she was inappropriate. "You just click 2 buttons and poof. He never existed," she told me, like it was nothing. I used to laugh along. Now I saw it for what it was. I dug out my old laptop. The one she forgot I used to sync her phone with. Back when we trusted each other. Back when she had nothing to hide. Turns out, she never turned off the auto backup. Messages. Screenshots. Voice memos. She'd once sent a voice note to her best friend saying, "Honestly, I could sleep with the whole building, and he still wouldn't leave me. He's too scared to be alone." She was right. I was scared. But not anymore. I started organizing everything. Labeled it. Backed it up 3 times. Put it on a flash drive. Then I wrote a list. Her job. Her reputation. Her peace. 3 things I was going to take from her. Not with violence. Not with yelling. With silence. With precision. The same way she took everything from me. I didn't want to humiliate her. I wanted to dismantle her. Brick by brick. From the inside. Quiet enough that she wouldn't even realize it was me, until it was too late to stop it. The first hit came on a Tuesday. I sent an anonymous package to her company's internal ethics board. No return address. Just a USB drive with one labeled folder. Policy violations, HR lead, unreported incidents, internal misconduct. Inside were 6 pieces of evidence. 1. A voice memo of her laughing after an HR seminar, saying, "We're trained to protect the company, not people." Get that right. 2. Screenshots of text between her and a married manager, her bragging about covering for him after a complaint was filed. 3. A copy of the forged email she made me write the year before. 4. A Zoom recording she screen captured and sent to me once, where she muted an intern during a harassment complaint and said, "He talks too much." 5. A spreadsheet that proved she flagged multiple cases as resolved in under 10 minutes, impossible without reviewing details. 6. And finally, a photo of her and the janitor in the break room, timestamped and completely inappropriate for any office environment. I sent it on a Tuesday because she always had her weekly one with her department head on Wednesdays. I wanted to ruin her morning. That same night, I created a burner Twitter account and followed 10 employees from her firm. I didn't post anything, just followed them and liked a few tweets. Subtle, creepy enough to be noticed. Let them wonder who was watching. By Thursday, I saw it begin. She posted a cryptic story. People love to dig up the past when their present is empty. It wasn't fear. Not yet. But it was discomfort. And that meant the hit landed. Friday, I called her office pretending to be from a compliance consultancy. Told the receptionist I needed to confirm if their HR lead was available for a pending ethics inquiry. She asked who I was with. I gave her a fake firm name, one I knew her company had worked with before. By Monday, she was under review. I didn't even have to follow up. Word got around through the forums. One employee posted, "Looks like our HR queen is in trouble. No tears here." That's when I realized. They never liked her. They feared her. She ruled through intimidation and charm. And now, both were cracking. She still posted her fake confidence online. Still went to brunch with friends. Still wore that look like the world revolved around her. But now she flinched when her phone buzzed. She watched her back. And I wasn't done. I was just getting started. I thought I was winning. I thought I'd pulled the right wires, cut the right supports, exposed the perfect pressure points. I underestimated her. Because the thing about people like her? They don't break when you hit them. They get smarter, meaner, and they hit back where it hurts most. It started with a phone call from my landlord. "Hey," he said, uneasy. "Got a weird email this morning." I asked what he meant. He sighed. "Says you've been harassing your ex." There's a screenshot. A photo of a whiteboard covered in her name, arrows, and words like ruin and destroy. Says you're stalking her. Mentally unstable. I froze. That whiteboard was real. It was in my room at my brother's place. I used it to organize everything, names, timelines, proof. Never posted it. Never sent it to anyone. Just for me. Which meant only one thing. She'd somehow gotten in. Or someone close to her had. Maybe I slipped. Maybe someone I spoke to reported back to her. I'd gotten too comfortable. Too proud. It didn't stop there. I got an email from a legal firm. Not a lawsuit yet, but a threat. A formal cease and desist. The subject line: harassment and reputational sabotage. Inside, allegations that I'd created fake accounts to monitor her, that I'd accessed private files illegally, that I was displaying erratic, obsessive behavior and weaponizing sensitive personal data. Some of it was true. Enough of it sounded true. I called a friend who worked in legal. He read the email, paused, said, "This was written to scare you." And it's working. It was. Because 2 days later, I lost my job. My supervisor called me in. Said HR had concerns. That an anonymous complaint came in accusing me of inappropriate data gathering during work hours. The company couldn't verify it, but they didn't want the risk. Just like that, I was gone. And she? She was fine. Still posting. Still smiling. Still throwing shade in carefully worded captions like, "Sometimes silence is the loudest scream. Stay safe out there." She'd flipped the whole thing. Now I looked like the obsessed one. I was the creep. The guy who couldn't let go. The ex with too much time and too many screenshots. I stayed up all night, reading those emails, pacing the room like a man about to lose his mind. Because here's the truth. She was winning. Again. And for the first time since this war began. I felt scared. Not just of her. Of myself. I spent a week off the grid. No calls. No emails. No social media. I shut everything down. Let her think she'd won. Let her relax. That's the mistake people like her make. They think fear equals defeat. But fear? Fear sharpens the blade. And I had one last weapon she didn't know about. The truth. Buried in her past was something she'd hoped no one would ever find. I remembered a story she once told at 2 a.m. after a bottle of wine, laughing, careless, not realizing I was actually listening. It was about a guy named Eli, her old manager from 3 jobs ago. She claimed he tried to blackmail her after they had a fling. Said she fixed it. I dug deeper. Found his LinkedIn. He was still working in corporate HR, but not at the same company. I sent him a message. Simple. "We have a mutual ghost. You might want to talk." He replied 3 days later. One call, and I had everything. She had slept with him. But when he tried to break it off, she filed a formal complaint against him, accused him of harassment. He settled quietly, paid out a chunk of his own savings to avoid legal action, and transferred to a different branch. She told everyone he was a predator. He never spoke out. Until now. I asked him to send me the old NDA, just the redacted version. He agreed. Said he was tired of living with it. Now I had a document. Dated. Sealed. Showing she had a history of weaponizing HR systems for personal gain. And that wasn't all. I remembered her cousin, Melissa. They had a falling out over family drama, but the real story was money. My ex borrowed $4,000 promising to pay it back after her promotion. She never did. I reached out. Melissa still had the text chain. Proof of the loan. Proof of the lie. And something better. Screenshots of my ex bragging to a friend about how she was never paying that boring cow back. Now I had patterns, documentation, witnesses. I packaged it all into a timeline. Professional. Clean. I didn't leak it. I didn't post it. I sent it to her company's board of directors. From an encrypted email. No threats. No slander. Just the facts. And then, I waited. 10 days later, she vanished from the company website. Her LinkedIn said, taking time to realign my path. She deleted every post from the last 6 months. Disabled comments. Shut down her Instagram. I heard through one of her co-workers that there'd been an emergency HR audit, and she'd voluntarily stepped away. She didn't step away. She was pushed. And this time, she didn't land on her feet. I should have known it wasn't over. People like her don't go quietly. They adapt. They spin. And just when you think they're down for good, they find a way to stand back up and make you look like the villain. It started with an article. Small blog. Local women's media. Title: I survived a campaign of digital abuse, and I'm speaking out. There was no name. No direct reference. But the story? The language? It was her. She painted herself as the victim of a targeted online smear campaign by an unnamed former partner who hacked into her accounts, manipulated private files, and weaponized professional misunderstandings into career-ending attacks. The worst part? She was convincing. She mentioned screenshots taken out of context, recordings heavily edited, documents fabricated using publicly available tools. And she ended it with this line: women who fight for power are often punished for using it. Within 48 hours, it had over 12,000 shares. 2 days later, she was a guest on a podcast. 3 days after that, she was invited to speak at a virtual panel about digital resilience. And me? I was anonymous. I couldn't defend myself without exposing everything, without making myself look exactly like the man she described. She didn't just flip the story. She bought a spotlight and rewrote the script. Now I was the shadow, the unnamed abuser, the man she escaped. But she didn't stop there. She started a new business, coaching women in corporate spaces, offering workshops on navigating toxic workplace cultures, the same culture she once built. She even launched a Patreon. People were paying to hear her tell the story of how she overcame a coordinated attack designed to ruin her career. And she was making money, getting praise, winning. Again, I tried reaching out to a few people she had heard, people who had once believed me, once trusted my evidence. They didn't respond. One sent a message back that said, "I don't want to be involved anymore. She's too powerful now." That one hurt more than I expected. She had erased the damage, repainted her brand, turned her fall into fuel, and now she was bigger than ever. And I was the footnote in her success story. Again. But here's the thing. Every time she reinvents herself, she leaves something behind. A detail, a contradiction, a crack in the image. And this time, I found it. Not just gossip, not just drama. Proof. Real, hard, cold proof. And if I used it, there would be no recovery. Not this time. But I had to ask myself something I hadn't asked since the beginning. How far was I willing to go? She thought she'd built something untouchable. A new brand. A platform. A movement. But what she really built was a house of glass. And I was holding the stone she forgot she ever gave me. It came from an old backup drive, one I hadn't touched in years. It had photos, receipts, tax forms, but also a folder labeled Client Calls 2019. Back then, she used to record her Zoom meetings just in case someone tried something inappropriate. She'd forgotten about them. I hadn't. In one recording, she's on a call with a senior client from a Fortune 500 company. The man makes a crude joke. She laughs, then says something I'll never forget. "Don't worry, I know how to keep mouths shut. HR's just a tool. You pay, I bury." That was it. Just one line. But when you're running corporate workshops on ethics and empowerment, one line like that is enough to shatter everything. I clipped the video, compressed it, added timestamps, attached a transcript. Then I uploaded it anonymously to a forum where whistleblowers in the corporate world share tips, leaks, and internal videos. It didn't go viral overnight, but it didn't need to. People recognized her voice, her face, her brand. 3 days later, her Patreon was locked. For days, Her speaking engagements were postponed. By the end of the week, a major sponsor quietly removed her photo from their website. She posted a vague story on Instagram. When the system feels threatened, it tries to silence you. Still standing. But the comments were different now. Not praise. Questions. Is this true? Wait, weren't you in HR? Why won't you respond to the video? Then came the email. Not to me, to a contact I had inside one of her partner organizations. A woman I'd once helped through her own mess with my ex. She forwarded it. It was from my ex. Subject: urgent clarification regarding defamatory footage. She called it deepfake manipulation. Claimed the voice could have been edited, but she didn't deny the words. Because she couldn't. I didn't gloat. I didn't post. I didn't respond. I watched. Her following shrank. One by one, collaborators distanced themselves. She tried to pivot, to redirect, to claim sabotage. But this time, the lie didn't hold. I didn't just expose her. I emptied her foundation. And still, I hadn't used the worst thing I found. Something buried deep. A sealed document she had once begged me to delete. Something signed. Something illegal. I held it now. It was enough to destroy her completely. But I hesitated. Because I knew. Once I used it, there would be no going back. I should have known she'd recover. She always does. Even after the leaked video, the dropped sponsors, the deleted accounts, she found a way to twist the story. She went silent for 2 weeks. No posts, no interviews, no public appearances. Then she came back. With a rebrand. New logo. New messaging. A glossy video of her sitting in a sunlit room, dressed in soft beige, voice shaking just enough to sound authentic. She said she had been the victim of digital manipulation, abuse, and targeted silencing by a bitter ex-partner. She didn't name me, but she didn't have to. She used words like obsession, emotional instability, and male fragility. It worked. They believed her. The comments returned. The supporters. The sympathy. Articles were written. Interviews booked. One headline said, "She was targeted for being too strong. Now she's stronger than ever." And me? Back in the shadows. Worse than before. This time, I wasn't just forgotten. I was the villain. People started messaging me from fake accounts. Threats. Insults. One person wrote, "You tried to ruin a woman's life because she didn't want you." Pathetic. She had turned my evidence into proof of her power. She was ahead. Again. I shut down everything. Went dark. Thought about deleting the final folder, the one thing I hadn't used. The thing that could ruin her for real. It was a scanned legal document. Something she had me sign years ago, back when she started her first corporate job. She said it was routine, a disclosure agreement so she could claim me as a dependent for insurance purposes. But I remembered reading it. It wasn't just a benefits form. It was a forged financial affidavit. She'd used it to get a private loan from a corporate investor. Claimed we were married. Claimed I earned a 6-figure salary. Used my social, my name, my work history. I never gave permission. She used me to secure a $50,000 advance, then left the company before the repayment clause triggered. It was fraud, and it was in her handwriting. I stared at the PDF. The signature. Mine. Copied. Not written. And next to it? Hers. Real. Then I saw the stamp at the bottom. Secured corporate filing. Notary witness required. I knew that name. The notary. I Googled her. She still worked in state. Still reachable. If I turned this over, it wouldn't be a scandal. It would be criminal. Not just reputation. Not just brand. It would be jail. I printed it. Folded it. Slid it into an envelope. I was going to send it. But then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the message. "Please don't do this. I know what you found. I'm outside your door." I opened it. And there she was. On her knees. Tears streaming down her face. No lawyers. No cameras. No lies. Just me, she whispered. "I'm begging you, please. I can't come back from this. I'll lose everything. And for the first time in this entire war." She was scared. Truly scared. I didn't say anything right away. She sat on the floor, back against my doorframe, hair a mess, eyeliner streaked down her cheeks. The woman who once mocked me for being too soft, too trusting, too quiet, was shaking like a leaf in the wind. She looked up at me, voice breaking. "I know what you have. The affidavit. The notary stamp. The fake income. I know everything you could do with it." I said nothing. She lowered her head, whispering like a child. "I made a mistake. No, more than one. I kept thinking I was untouchable, that I could spin anything. And maybe I could, until now. She reached into her purse, pulled out a folder. I went to the company, told them the loan was secured with falsified paperwork. I said it was me, not you. They didn't report it. Yet. But I thought if I did that first, maybe. She trailed off. My throat was dry. You're only here because you're scared, I finally said. She nodded slowly. Yes, I am. But not just to the consequences. I'm scared because I look in the mirror and I don't even know who I am anymore. I became someone I can't defend. I folded my arms. You destroyed me. I know. You called me weak. She swallowed. Because you were kind. And I mistook that for weakness. I used it. I held up the envelope. Heavy with truth. Sharp enough to cut through every lie she'd ever told. Her eyes locked onto it like it was a gun. If you send that, she said, barely breathing, I'll lose everything. Not just my business. Not just my name. I lose my future. My ability to work. To exist in the world I built. She crawled forward until she was kneeling in front of me. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I'm asking for mercy. I looked down at her, and for a long second, I saw her not as a monster. Not as the woman who humiliated me. I saw someone broken. And for the first time, maybe honest. Could I do it? Could I ruin someone forever and walk away feeling proud? Or would I become the very thing she had tried to paint me as? My hand gripped the envelope. I looked at her, and then I let out a long breath, walked to the desk, and slowly, deliberately tore the envelope in half. She covered her face and started sobbing. I didn't comfort her, didn't say anything kind. I just opened the door and waited for her to leave. She stood slowly, looked at me one last time, and I said the only words I knew could cut deeper than revenge. What would you do in my place?